Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. The West Indies men's team is set to tour New Zealand later this year from November 27 to December 15 for 3 T20 internationals and 2 test matches. This follows confirmation by New Zealand that they have received their government's approval to proceed with plans. The T20s will be the start of an 11-month schedule of matches building up to the ICC T20 World Cup, rescheduled for October 2021 in India. CWI boss Ricky Skerritt had this to say: "We are pleased to be able to fulfill our obligation to tour New Zealand as we continue to get our ICC Future Tours program back on track in spite of the financial difficulties we face. I want to thank CWI CEO Johnny Grave and Director of Cricket Jimmy Adams and their operations team for successfully partnering with New Zealand Cricket to make this tour possible earlier this summer. In collaboration with the England and Wales Cricket Board, we restarted international cricket globally. Fortunately, that England tour included the successful testing of safety protocols, which we expect will be the standard for all international cricket tours. COVID-19 has created a most challenging period for cricketers and fans alike. With all the schedules being adjusted and amended, we see this tour as another timely opportunity to keep our players working and our fans entertained." Well, West Indies head coach Phil Simmons is already planning his team's approach. He says, "We are delighted to play all formats as we struggle to keep our sport alive in these difficult times. These T20 internationals are a part of getting these guys playing together as much as possible between now and the ICC T20 World Cup next year." After the England Test series earlier this year, this will be an excellent test of how we have improved on the things we as a team have learned from that series. We played really well to win that first test and did some good things throughout the series. We have a great team environment. We will continue to work and build as a team. So Lance and George, we heard from CEO of Cricket West Indies. We heard from Ricky Skerritt, and we also heard from Phil Simmons. They are ready for this tour, of course, and they're saying that this is to keep our fans entertained and to ensure that the cricketers don't become too lazy. How do you see this one turning out for our West Indies men?
Well, New Zealand has been a difficult place for the West Indies to perform. Remember, a few years ago, it was 2017 when Shea Hope had the historic performance at Headingley, and we all thought he would have kicked on from there. He went to New Zealand and didn't look the same player, and frankly hasn't looked the same player at Test level since. And there were others who showed signs of progression in England and who went to New Zealand and didn't really do so well. And if you look historically, it doesn't matter who the New Zealand cricketers are, the West Indies, let's just say that New Zealand is not a happy hunting ground. So those 2 tests, the hosts, based on the record, are the favourites for those events. The West Indies were more concerned about the T20, the 3 T20 matches that are scheduled for the tour, because given the personnel that the West Indies have, the way the team is tracking under Kyron Pollard, they would think that they would have the measure of the New Zealanders. But it is great that cricket is continuing, and good that Jacinda Ardern and her government have seen it fit to open the borders for the Caribbean Men to tour.
Lance, CPL just finished. We saw some of our Caribbean men on display, and now IPL is taking place. Our Caribbean players are still starring. West Indies or New Zealand?
New Zealand is always a difficult place to tour, not only for the West Indies, but most of the top flight international teams will tell you that a trip to New Zealand is always very difficult. So this won't be easy for the West Indies, especially in the longer format. A lot of the players would of course be coming out of the IPL, several of them already there and doing well. So I think the white ball format for them will probably hold more of an opportunity for them to shine. But winning Test series in New Zealand has always been very difficult. From a Caribbean perspective, we have all been seeing the resurgence or the sport being elevated again at the international level. But as a region, sport for us is still, to a large extent, still down. So for our players to be involved in international sport, it is wonderful for them. And I'm happy that this tour has been confirmed.
All right, so we're staying with cricket. West Indies women were no match for England women as they lost the 4th Vitality T20 International by 44 runs in Derby on Tuesday. Electing to bat, England recovered from 48 for 3 after 9 overs to post 166 for 6, their highest score of the series so far. Wicketkeeper batter Amy Jones, who was dropped by Leanne Kirby when on 2, went on to produce a player of the match performance, 55 from 37 deliveries. She got solid support from captain Heather Knight, who contributed 42 from 30 balls as the two shared 65 for the 4th wicket. Aaliyah Allen was the pick of the Windies bowlers with 2 for 25, chasing 167 to win. The Caribbean women were in early trouble, losing the series leading run scorer Deandra Dottin for just 4. Hayley Matthews 11 and captain Stephanie Taylor 13 also failed to spark as the Windies women were restricted to 122 for 9, with Shadeen Nation 30 and Allen 15 scoring the most runs. The 5th and final game will be played Wednesday at the same venue. Lance George, we've been following this West Indies tour very closely, and of course, a lot of disappointing performances from most of the West Indies team. Let's talk about that last match, of course, Deandra Dottin, when her wicket was gone. That was it for our West Indies batters.
Well, before a few days before the series, I said 5-0, and many people may have said that was mean, but it wasn't mean.
We said that, Lance and I.
Said what? That it was mean?
Yeah.
Okay. But there's a gap between England and the West Indies that ought not to be, but it is. Our girls look underskilled, underprepared, and as we said, so many of the key performers have gone backwards. A few have stalled, but most have gone backwards, and really need an inquest into West Indies women's cricket to fix it, because it can't continue like this.
Lance, a lot of criticism as well on Leanne Kirby. Today interviewed the interim head coach, Andrew Cooley. They asked him and he said they have to go back and really make a decision where she's concerned, because since being inserted to bat, only single digits, of course, not coming out and creating the impact that we expected from her.
Yeah, she has really been failing, but the batting has been failing very, very badly. Deandra Dottin has scored 170-odd runs so far, accumulatively in this series. The next highest run getter for the West Indies women would be Stephanie Taylor with just 63 from 4 matches. And, players like Shemaine Campbell, who I don't know what's going wrong with her, because I've seen her play good innings before. I remember her hitting a century against Sri Lanka back in 2013. I know it's a long time ago, but Shemaine Campbell I have seen her bat well. Hayley Matthews, we've already discussed, has gone backwards. And both of them, Hayley Matthews and Shemaine Campbell, are averaging single digits. I think Hayley is probably 9 and Shemaine 7, or the other way around. So if your batting is not delivering, and then the bowling isn't the best, even though I pretty admire what Aaliyah Allen has been doing since she came into the team, and we see Deandra beginning to bowl again. So the bowling looks a little better, in my opinion, in the last couple of matches than it did in the first 2. But if your batting isn't clicking against a team like England, you're not going to win. And Deandra is the only one batting.
Definitely.
How can Stephanie Taylor score 63 runs from 4 matches? And she's a quality batter.
What about Hayley Matthews? So,
well,
as we go into that 5th and final match tomorrow, we just wish the West Indies women best of luck, and of course I hope that they don't lose this one too. We go to break.
Yeah, just before we go, something to announce here on the SportsMax Zone. The president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association, William Wallace, will appear on the SportsMax Zone on Wednesday. We are confirming that we will have a conversation with William Wallace on Wednesday's edition of the SportsMax Zone from 4:30 p.m., 5:30 p.m. EDT. You do not want to miss that. William Wallace on the SportsMax Zone. Yeah, it's happening.